I am going to do a re-release this Monday morning because we are going to record a smidge later this week due to travel schedules and all that. But I wanted to give you something, and I wanted to re-release this episode because this is one of my favorites. It's the story of the Mutiny and the Bounty, and I feel like this story really gave me the jump to do other stories about the exact same time. So we're learning about Captain Cook, we're learning about exploration, we're learning about sailing, we're learning about the um, islands that people are going to that they've never seen before, and we're hearing all these stories, and it's pretty exciting. So I am, I don't know, I love this. Let me know if there's more fun stories of the high seas. We do um, the Franklin expedition later, but really, like, to me, the idea of being on like a boat in uncharted waters in the middle of nowhere is just wild. Like, you might as well be in space. So I love hearing about it. Let me know if you have any other ideas. We were at doomtofailpod@gmail.com. And as a reminder, we are re-releasing our first 26 episodes. We did two stories in one, and now we're doing them, just Mondays and Wednesdays. So I'm separating them, re-releasing them. I think this is episode 15, part two. And once I'm done doing this, then we'll have other fun things on the side. But let us know what you think.
In the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA096.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Let's flip over to talk about historical failure and a crazy story. You might have guessed by the rum that we're going into the high seas, and we're going to talk about the Mutiny on the Bounty. Have you heard of that before?
I have.
Actually, that was it.
This is oh my god. This is an Amistad, is it?
No,
No, because that's Amistad. This is Bounty.
right. Correct. The Bounty is a ship, though.
See, I know enough to know that. I knew.
Yes.
So okay. So I have
High
heard
seas.
of it.
High seas. So the Mutiny on the Bounty, I got this idea actually from my boss. She mentioned it. She was like, "Oh, I was looking this up this weekend and it was crazy." And I was like, "Cool." So I was gonna do something else this week, but then I had to like read a book, and I was like, I don't know if I can read a whole book this week. I'm super busy, so I was able to listen to a book and watch a movie to learn a little bit about this story. So I read a National Geographic article. I watched the 1962 movie Mutiny on the Bounty with Marlon Brando, and then I also read the book by Captain Bligh, who's the captain. He wrote a book after called like The Mutiny on the Bounty. Essentially, that's what it's called. So I read his book. So before I get to that story, I stumbled upon a true crime story while researching it. So I'll tell this really fast. So, like I said, I watched the 1962 film Mutiny on the Bounty. Super long. There's an intermission and an overture. I love an overture, but like it's crazy long. Marlon Brando plays Fletcher Christian, one of the main characters. He has this like really weird English accent where it's like high, like it's like a high voice and like a no.
Brando's voice is not made to be British sounding.
Yeah, no, it's real weird. So he's in it. Kind of plays like he's more of a rich guy, as we'll learn. So in the movie, they go to Tahiti. You're gonna learn this in a little bit too. There's a woman who dances like for Marlon Brando in the movie, and they do like a lot of eye contact, and you're like, I don't know, there's something going on between those two. Like they're definitely, whatever, looking at each other weird. So it turns out that this is real in real life. This woman, she's a 19-year-old actress from Tahiti. Like actress is loose. It was just like they went to Tahiti and like grabbed all the local people to be in this movie. And so he's 36, she's 19. He takes her back to LA and they get married. Her name is Tarita Terapia. She's still alive. She's 81. So he brings this like young woman back from Tahiti to LA. It was up and down because he's kind of a monster, just like, being a movie star, doing all these things, like being mean. They have two kids. In total, he has 11 kids. And
Marlon Brando?
And he died in 2004, but some of his kids are young. They're like younger than us. They're like 29.
Seriously?
Which is bizarre. Yeah. So
I bet they're like pretty good looking kids though.
Oh yeah, everyone's real good looking. I mean, everyone's fucking gorgeous. Marlon Brando is gorgeous.
I mean, he was.
Yes,
Wait,
I know.
wow.
I'm not saying like Island of Dr. Moreau, Marlon Brando is gorgeous, but like Marlon Brando and Mutiny on the Bounty is gorgeous.
Dude, he had a kid who was 49 years old and died in 2008.
Okay, wait, I'm getting there. Stop.
Am I ruining things?
No, just wait. Let me. Don't read about his kids. Stop. So one of
Hands
his
off the
11
computer.
kids, the one that he has with Tarita, he has two kids with her. One of them is a daughter named Cheyenne. So Cheyenne has it rough. Her dad is like ignores her and is mean to her. He ends up buying some property in Tahiti and like building a hotel and having the mom manage it and kind of ignoring his family. So she's like, I hate my dad. Now it's the 90s. Cheyenne, Marlon Brando's daughter, has a boyfriend. His name is Dag Drolet, and he is abusive towards her. So he starts abusing Cheyenne. And then Marlon Brando has another son, Christian, from his first marriage, who's older than Cheyenne. Are you with me? So they're
Yeah,
step
like it's just like like dude, it's just such a good looking cluster of
they're
humans.
also good looking. Oh my God. So Christian is older than Cheyenne. They're half siblings. And Cheyenne, whose mom is from Tahiti from the movies, her dad is Marlon Brando, has a boyfriend named Dag, and Christian comes to Marlon Brando's house where Dag and Cheyenne are having a fight, and Christian shoots him point blank in the head and kills him.
Good for
So
him.
Marlon Brando's son kills his half sister's boyfriend, who's being an abusive asshole. Guess who Christian's lawyer is when he is on trial?
The guy who oh god the Charles Manson prosecutor.
Robert Shapiro.
No shit.
Yeah. I wrote Robert Shapiro, but a bunch of like exclamation points. So Christian pleads guilty. He gets 10 years. He serves 5. Cheyenne didn't testify. She attempted suicide twice. She was also pregnant with Dag's child. And later, they thought that Christian was also involved in helping Robert Blake murder his wife, but that's not like confirmed. And he's the one who died of pneumonia in 2008 at age 49. So Christian died. Cheyenne has her baby. Then she's diagnosed as schizophrenic. And in 1995, she's only 25 years old and she dies by suicide by shooting herself.
Damn.
Isn't that wild?
It's like life is so life. I don't. Well, depression's the thing, right? I was gonna say like if you're Marlon Brando's kid, like life has got to be fucking way cooler than it is for me and you.
I know. You just don't know, I guess. Anyway, that's crazy. That's all. That's my true crime story I stumbled upon.
Marlon Brando's so effortlessly cool. Like I'm sure
So
he was. I'm
handsome.
sure he was a jerk off, but like
Yeah.
it's like, dude, like the way he's rocking this suit, like this picture of him and Cheyenne with like him holding her from behind with the lay on was like
Yes.
effortless,
Yeah.
absolutely effortless.
So handsome. It's crazy. And the kids are gorgeous. Like, yeah, everyone's beautiful. So yes. Okay. So that's just a crazy story that happened because I was reading about Mutiny in the Body, the movie. So I watched that movie. There is a Mel Gibson movie, but I didn't watch it because I'm not sure if we're ready to separate the art from the artist on Mel Gibson.
Wait,
I don't know if we're watching
do
one.
we still hate Mel Gibson?
I don't know, do we? I feel like yes, because of the anti-Semitism and his
But
dad being a literal Nazi.
oh, you know what? I'm not up on the dad Nazi thing, but I think that like Braveheart.
No, I know, but that was like before we knew about the Nazi. Anyway, who cares? I didn't watch that. It's available. So, okay, we are in 1787.
Okay,
And so we're a little bit past the American Revolutionary War. Britain lost, but they still have a lot of other things going on. They're fighting with France. They're trying to manage this gigantic slave trade that they're doing, and they're trying to colonize the rest of the world. So Britain is still very, very busy. It's November 1787, and a ship called the HMS Bounty heads to Tahiti. It's called Otahiti, and then later it changes to Tahiti. I don't know why. The captain is William Bly. The first lieutenant is Fletcher Christian. That's Marlon Brando. And in total, there's 46 dudes on the boat.
what's up, first lieutenant? Is that like
He's like, so because the Bounty was not the biggest ship, it was one of the smallest ships that the British Navy had. It was called a cutter. So because it was so small and I'll tell you what they were going to do in a second. It had no officers other than Bly. So the captain was the only person who was actually an officer of the Navy. Everybody else was like just like kind of like regular sailors,
okay?
including Fletcher Christian. It's a very small crew, no Royal Marines to protect the ship, which you would usually have. So it's like a pretty small group of folks, those 46 guys.
Okay.
The Captain William Bly had traveled to like all around the world a lot before. He went with someone named Captain James Cook. Cook had first sailed to Tahiti in 1769. He sailed all over the world. He was eventually killed by native Hawaiians, which I wrote I'm fine with. because it sounds like he did a lot of like colonizing. But the goal for the HMS Bounty was to get breadfruit to bring back to the West Indies to feed enslaved people, essentially. So in Tahiti and in that part of the world, like a little bit like north of Australia, like that area, there's a fruit called breadfruit. It's been around for thousands of years. It's like a big, I'll post a picture of it, but it's like a big green fruit. And the inside you can like bake. It kind of tastes like bread if you bake it the right way. You can like boil it, cook it in all different kinds of ways, depending on the time of year. You can almost always harvest it, and it's like plentiful and has a lot of nutrients. So it's something that they thought they could, bring it to the West Indies and just feed all the slaves with it, and feed them just breadfruit, basically.
Okay.
Have you ever had like jackfruit that tastes like pulled pork?
I don't think I've ever had jackfruit.
It's like pretty crazy the stuff they can do with it. Like they do like a thing that I don't know, add a bunch of barbecue sauce, make it taste like pulled pork and it tastes exactly like pulled pork. It's really weird. But I
Interesting.
think it's like similar to that. So the HMS, the Bounty had a botanist on board. So there were 46 men, 44 of them were like the crew, two of them were botanists who were there to get the fruit. They had taken the captain's quarters and they had cut holes in the floor and added more windows and made it into a greenhouse to be able to put pots of breadfruit in once they got there. So Captain Bligh slept in like a much smaller room and everybody was pretty cramped because that was like a big space that they had allocated for the plants. Make sense?
Yes. Hey,
So,
do you remember? This is like so. I'm like having this memory arrive to me way after your point about the colonizing. But you remember
mhm.
that guy who was like a missionary who went to that one North Seminole island?
I was thinking about him too doing
Okay,
this. Who got
I fucking love that he was just butchered like a hog. Like I think it's awesome. I think it's like,
I
dude, stop
he
fucking
was reading
taking
the
people's
Bible.
religions. Stop taking people's cultures away from them. You
It's
should
the
deserve to
last
die.
one.
You should
Oh my
literally
gosh.
deserve to die. Like I remember Chow. His name was Chow. It was Chau, I think.
I hate to say it, but I love that they were just like, fuck you, and just like shot him with arrows.
Fucking love it. It's
You know,
one of the most heartwarming stories. That should be a Christmas tale.
don't fucking do that. Yeah.
Don't fucking take people's cultures from them.
There's a lot of this
Idiots.
happening in this story in this
Yeah.
time. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, okay, so they left in November 1787. They arrive in October 1788. So it took a little over 10 months and it was 27,000 miles to arrive in Tahiti from England. The trip was exhausting. A few people died. There was a ship surgeon, and like surgeon, I think should be in like 17 air quotes because it was just like
A
maybe also the
butcher.
cook or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he ended up killing a dude by accident because the dude had asthma, so he was like bleeding him and he had a blood poisoning and died. You're like, okay, that obviously is not going to work.
Predictable. Yeah.
Yeah. The Captain Bligh was actually pretty mean. He would order lashings for anyone who broke the rules. So a lot of people like getting whipped and punished for things. In the book, he's very casual about it because it's his book, which I didn't even realize when I was reading it that it was like his. When I first started reading it, I was like, oh, this is like his actual account of this. But he was like, I'm maintaining order. What am I supposed to do? So it was like a pretty
Uh,
strict time.
it kind of makes sense that it's called mutiny on the bounty when you're beating the shit out of people. Like,
Yeah,
what am I supposed to
totally.
do? Like, not that, probably.
Yeah. One thing that I wrote in that I added in my notes that I thought was fun, not fun, they ate albatrosses. Like they would like catch them out of the sky and eat them and like the big bird. So
It's gonna be a
so
tough to
it's a
catch
rough,
one.
yeah, it's a rough trip. It takes 10 months. They were supposed to go via Cape Horn underneath South America, but it was too late in the year to do that. So they ended up going the other way down below Africa. They spent some time in Tasmania, which was called Adventure Bay for parents. Adventure Bay from Paw Patrol. I don't think they're in there, but that's funny. Also in Captain Bligh's book, so much of it is like, we were at this latitude and longitude, and it was like this time. And I'm like, how the fuck do they know what latitude and longitude they were at? So I looked it up, and I have no idea. I like it's called
Sexton.
a chronometer timepiece.
Shit.
It's like
Okay.
the thing that could do it. It's like if you look it up, it's like a beautiful like wooden briefcase with like all these like gears in it. Like it looks like a time, like a something you would use in like a time machine. Like it looks fun. But they were just starting to figure this out and figure out where they were. So they were like discovering islands, sort of. Obviously, like they're not the first people there, but then they'd be like, oh, I think if you're at this latitude and longitude, you should see this island that has like three hills. So that like someone else can like maybe know where they are later. But
Yeah.
it seems really scary just to be out in the ocean with just like guessing and like math and looking at the stars. If it's cloudy, you're like, I don't know where the fuck I am. So
They were
that's crazy.
hardier back then.
Yes. So now they're in Tahiti. They're about to go on to shore. The Captain Bligh has everyone checked for STDs, and everyone is fine. In the movie, they're
Wait,
like,
so nobody thought. So you're just gonna gloss over that? Nobody thought it was fucking weird that.
no, no, hold on. There's more. So no, they did not have STDs when they got off the boat, allegedly. In the movie, they were like, the women loved having sex with us. Like they loved it. Like whatever. Like they say that. But in real life, they were obviously like trading sexual favors for money and like beads and nails and things. When it was all over, 40% of the men contracted an STD. The STDs had been introduced to Tahiti by the English and French explorers anyway, you know. So
Hold
kind of
on.
circles
So
back
the
on them.
women had the STDs that they gave the guys,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they
From
but it all
other,
originated from other Europeans who went there earlier. Yeah, I got it.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're like using them as like consorts and such. So somehow the bounty had a lot of stuff on it. They were always able to trade gifts, so they were like, well, here's a mirror and a knife and all these things. And so Captain Bligh was making friends with the chief. Tyna was the chief's name, Tynah. Captain Bligh never slept off the boat. He stayed on his boat while the men started to like live on the island with the native people. But he entertained the chiefs and their wives almost every night. There were a couple petty thefts on the boat, but they were sometimes okay. Usually it was fine. The chief wanted to come back to England and meet King George, and Bligh was like, not today, not this time. So
Aim lower.
yeah.
Meet his
So
guards.
exactly. So they like made a little, like, they made friends and he was making friends with the leadership and basically being like, can we have this breadfruit? This is why we're here. That's the thing that our king wants. And they were like, sure, a shit ton of it. But it was hard to cultivate. You can't just like take it with you. There's no seeds in it. It has to be cultivated directly from the root. So they had to like wait for the root to grow and for the plants to be hardy enough to be able to leave. So
So this
while,
this turned into like basically a fantasy life for all these men.
exactly.
It sounds like a fantasy. Like
It's fucking gorgeous. There's like delicious fruit everywhere. There's like beautiful women that are everywhere. And like, yeah, no, they loved it.
yeah, I can see why they mutinied.
Yeah. So Fletcher Christian, he is I don't know. I mentioned this, but he's like kind of like the second in command. He comes from a wealthy family. Like they expected him to be a lawyer, but he decided that he wanted to like go on adventures and such. Fletcher Christian is 23 and Captain Bligh is 33 during this, just to get some ideas. Like in the movie, Captain Bligh seems a lot older than 33, but basically they were like not that far apart.
He's
Um,
Anthony Hopkins, and
yeah, he's not that old. That's
like,
crazy.
Anthony Hopkins was born like 6 years old.
I know he was never 33.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Fletcher Christian had a girlfriend. Her name was Mawatua. That's the girl that Marlon Brando flirts with in the movie and then ends up in real life marrying. And in the movie, the Marlon Brando is like fooling around with her, and the captain is like, "You have to stop." And the chief, well, in the movie, she's the daughter of the chief, and the chief is like, "What? My daughter is good enough for you?" So the captain literally goes, "I need you to go make love to that woman." And Marlon Brando goes, "Fine," and they put him on a boat and Marlon Brando's like standing on this like little schooner going to land to like basically have sex with this girl and they have him standing up at the front of the boat with his leg up and it plays the song like the dun 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 dun. It's like really stupid, but like funny. Like he's like, I guess I'll have sex with her for the colony. But that's not true. They were just like paying them for it, essentially. And I can't hear you. I see you moving your mouth.
I was muted. I was gonna say, I guess if it's Marlon Brando and he's gonna whip it out, you gotta make it dramatic, right?
Right, exactly. And I think in real life, there's probably also a lot of sexual assaults, so not great. So it's been 5 months. The breadfruit is finally working. It's in the pots. It's healthy. They put it all on. They have like a couple thousand plants. They put them on the bounty, and they're going to go back to the West Indies, and everything looks good. So April 1st, 1789, the bounty sets sail again back to England via the West Indies. Obviously, like you said, the crew is not stoked. They're like, why
Yeah,
can't we stay
fuck
here?
this.
Yeah, like I don't want to go live a fucking 10 more months on this boat and like doing all this hard labor and being whipped all the time and like it's terrible. And so they've
This is
also
another
lost,
argument for why capitalism is flawed. Is if you
yeah.
could, nobody who could live that life would then choose to go back to a capitalistic structure of I gotta wake up at 8 a.m. to do this. Like,
Exactly. They lost a lot of their discipline. That like a big part of it too. They were like, why would
yeah,
I
rightfully
go back
so.
to like following rules? Yeah. So, and also the captain's mean and it feels worse because they're like, now I have an idea of what a good life could be like. So there's a lot of stuff that happens, like a lot of abuse by the captain. There's lashings. People aren't allowed to have water. In the movie, I'm sure they did this. They pulled someone under the ship. You know how you like tied him to a rope and like pulled him across the bottom of the ship, which would like really hurt because you'd like get all scratched, and that guy ended up dying. So people are dying. Bly like wasn't really aware of how mad the sailors were. He was just like, everything's fine. It's hard, but that's life at the sea, you know? So he didn't really like, he wasn't, I don't know, he wasn't worried about a mutiny. In real life, it's thought that Captain Bligh on April 27th, 1789, so it's been like about a month that they've been back at sea, he accuses Fletcher Christian of stealing coconuts and punishes everybody. So everyone is in trouble for this like alleged infraction that may or may not even have happened, and everyone's pissed. So now everyone, like most people are mad. So the next day, April 28th, 1789, a group of mutineers led by Christian armed themselves with muskets and swords, and they burst into the captain's cabin, said, I'm taking you prisoner. Christian said, I have been in hell for weeks past with you. So they take him and some of his guards and people who were loyal to the captain, and they bring them to the ship. I don't know, it's the upstairs on the ship. Bly is surprised. They force him into a boat, but the boat's not big enough because actually 18 of the people who are left want to like go with the captain, or they're like not sure what to do. So he ends up getting a pretty big boat, and the captain Bly and those 18 men, they give them some food and they put them in this boat and like let them go. So this sounds even worse than being on the Bounty in general, obviously, because they're in like a schooner. They're on this for many weeks. Sometimes they see islands, but mostly they're just eating a tiny amount of moldy bread. This is where they get a teaspoon of rum every day to try to like warm up because it's freezing and it's raining and they're constantly bailing water
Wait,
out of it.
that's how they warm up is have a teaspoon of rum?
Yeah. And he says
That's
that like
awful.
it's awful. And like it's because it's raining so much, they don't really run out of water, which is great, but they're also constantly soaking wet. And the rain is cold, but the seawater is pretty warm. So they take their clothes off and they rinse them in the seawater and then put them back on for warmth, which sounds awful. Like
Hey
you're just
Taylor,
like soaking wet.
if okay, so I'm gonna ask, like, do you think the way I think? If it was me, like, sure, listen, I'm probably gonna die here anyways. I just want to get trashed one more time. Just give me all the fucking rum. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just like go for broke
Yeah,
and then just like have one good night. And then you know that it's all gonna suck from there on out, right?
I don't know, but what a way to go, just like starving to death on a boat, you
I don't know.
know?
I fundamentally, like at my core, I really don't have a problem with eating a person. Like I just never thought
Yeah,
that was
me
a
either.
weird thing. Like it's
No,
meat
I
is
would
meat,
totally eat someone else.
right?
Yeah, no.
So I don't think I would go out that way.
I definitely would spend my time trying to be someone that everybody liked, so no one would murder me and eat me. I would tell jokes. I don't know.
So me and
Like
you would have to
sing.
team up. Me and you would have to team up. So like it's like because I don't want to hurt people naturally. So you'd have to distract them so I could grab them from behind and choke them.
Perfect. I'll tell jokes. Okay, great. Now
Yeah,
we know.
you're the funny one.
We'll be like, hey, want to go on a boat with us? We'll be like, no, no.
I've listened to your podcast. I know exactly what you have planned.
So it is Captain Bligh and 18 men. Also, everyone is sick, obviously, because you're eating moldy bread and they're barely eating. So everyone like just like constantly sick. Meanwhile, the Bounty goes back towards Tahiti. They find an island about 400 miles from Tahiti called Tubawi, and they stay there. The natives are like, we don't want you here. Like, they're different. It's a different group of people than were on Tahiti. They're like, who are you? We don't want you here. They don't speak the same language. So they killed a bunch of them, and like the sailors on the Bounty killed a bunch of the natives. They go back to Tahiti to the people that they know to get supplies. And so they lie and say that like the captain died. They don't tell anybody about the mutiny because they don't want them to know that this happened. And they take 30 Tahitians back with them to this island. Eventually it's just too much. Like the natives who are there don't want them there. And there's a lot of killing and a lot of fighting. So they go back to Tahiti. So the mutineers are a mess. They end up getting in another fight and like, dividing up. So 16 of them stay in Tahiti, and the rest, including Fletcher Christian, Marlon Brando, pretend to throw a party and invite 30 natives onto the Bounty and essentially kidnap them and enslave them so they can build a settlement on another island. So they leave.
God,
So
it's like almost entrenched innate second nature to find people and
just
horribly use them. Like it's
forcibly
just
use
the
them.
weirdest. It's
And that
such a
group like
weird.
includes women that they're like using as like sex slaves
It's such a
essentially, you
weird
know?
instinct. It's like when I meet a person, I don't immediately think, "How can I use and abuse you to my own benefit?"
Yeah.
Maybe I should. That's
No,
you know
no, I
what?
think
That's
you're
my
fine.
fault. That's my problem.
Don't do
You're right.
that.
You're right.
So now the original crew of the Bounty is in three different groups, and here's what happened to them. So group one is with Captain Bligh and his men. They are on that small boat. They eventually reach safety in Timor, which is like another island a little bit north. It's about 6,000 miles away from where they started. They get back to England and send a ship back to Tahiti to get the mutineers. Also, as soon as they took over the Bounty, they threw all of the bread plants out of it. So they were like, so they were just like, "Fuck you. You're
It
also
was
never
just like
going to
a.
do this."
It was just a form of rebellion.
Yeah. Yeah, so that wasn't so that's not even an option anymore. Captain Bligh does get court-martialed and acquitted of responsibility for the loss of the ship eventually. There were other wars and such, and Captain Bligh ended up being mutinied again in the Rum Rebellion in New South Wales, Australia, which was not on a boat, but like they like rebelled against him because he was being a terrible leader. And it's Australia's only military rebellion. And we can talk more about that later. I don't know much about it, but like you're a bad leader, Captain Bligh. And he ended up going back to England. He died. Oh, he got put on a ship for 2 years, on like a prison ship after that mutiny in Australia. And then he went back to England. He died of cancer at home in London at the age of 63.
Good for
So
him.
he like kept going, even though he was, whatever. Then the second group, the mutineers that were left on Tahiti. So the ship that Bligh sent back in 1791 to get the mutineers was called the Pandora. When they got back to Tahiti, there were 14 left. 14 of the mutineers were left alive on Tahiti. The Pandora took them back. It ended up pretty quickly after leaving Tahiti sinking. It got like stuck in coral. It sunk. They tried to save the prisoners, but four of them drowned because they were still shackled in the bottom of the boat. So now there's only 10 left. So these ten mutineers are left. They go back to England. Four were acquitted. Six were sentenced to death by hanging, and three ended up being pardoned, and three of them ended up being hanged. Thomas Burkitt, John Millward, and Thomas Ellison, they were all hanged on October 29th, 1794 for the mutiny. And they're the only ones who were ever actually punished
I
for
mean,
it.
probably a good move. Like you can't have people just fucking. It's never gonna end well when. So here's one thing I've learned that you're gonna disagree with me again. There's so many. I think bad leadership is better than no leadership. Taylor's making a face. She's pondering the question
Maybe. No, maybe. Just like somebody has to take charge, right?
because absent any leadership, you have chaos,
Yeah.
and chaos is
Yes.
rarely productive.
Oh, and that's what they ended up having, the mutineers, because they couldn't agree on anything.
Right.
And I feel like that's what always happens. Like that's what you see happening when like there is, like you like have a good idea, but if no one's in charge, like that's what happened to what was that thing with Occupy Wall Street?
Yeah, 99% movement. Yeah.
Yeah, they had no leadership. And
That's
so
how all that's how
yeah,
all that shit ends up. Is like
yeah,
different factions like yeah,
yeah,
it
totally.
devolves.
So yeah, absolutely. And that's what happens to the last group. So the third group is Christian and his group. They go to Pitcairn Island, which is another island where they want to have a permanent settlement with, their slaves. I didn't finish the movie. It's long. I think I like you can get on YouTube for free, but they do find an island. Christian has a son and he has a pretty great name. So here's another name that you can give to your future children. Fletcher Christian has a son with a native Tahitian woman, and the son's name is Thursday October, which is great because neither of those are our names.
That is the stupidest fucking name I've ever heard in my entire life. I've never heard of a dumber name. The-
No, I know.
They
What?
should have.
Those aren't names.
The
What?
doctor should take that child away when the birth certificate is submitted. Like, not
That's
okay.
pretty great. It's pretty great. So essentially, the women were sex slaves and the men were being abused to like build this like little colony on this island. Some women even tried to leave on a boat, but they were unsuccessful and they had to come back. One woman, her name was Tevarua, she died by suicide because she was just like so tired of the abuse. They did horrible things to these people that they had to live on this island. In September 1793, there was a uprising by the the natives that they had on this little
Oh,
island with them, and they killed four of the eight mutineers that were left, including Fletcher Christian. So he
oh.
dies in 1793. The British don't find them until 1808. And when they find them, there's only one man left on this island. Well, one Englishman left on this island. There's a lot of like,
Just one really
is,
fat guy, and there's a bunch of
yeah,
skeletons.
for real. His name was John Adams. So he was, involved in a lot of the turmoil on the island. There was like murder. One guy wanted to marry Christian's like widow in parentheses, like the in quotes, and threatened to kill everyone. So they killed him with a hatchet in his sleep. So they're like fighting against each other. Like this, it's like it's wild. And then one of the guys was like super upset about just like everything, and he jumped off a cliff. So everyone like is kind of losing their minds. So guess where John Adams turns after this?
He becomes president of the United States.
No, he becomes very religious. So he finds God and becomes very Christian. Somehow he also had a Bible. So he tries to live life by the Bible and starts to like be a big part of like bringing Christianity to these islands and does that, even though he's definitely been a shithead this whole time. And then he ended up being pardoned.
You know what's interesting about that? Like, you go to these places and you realize how incredibly amazing and rich that life is,
Yeah,
and tell yourself,
I'm gonna
I
go
gotta
there.
make this like my old spot. I gotta bring Jesus into this. Like, it's just like what I mentioned when I talked about that one guy, the Egyptian guy, where it's like, why the fuck would you go somewhere and then try and turn that place into the thing that you escaped? Like, it makes no sense.
There's actually a quote at the end of this National Geographic article where a historian in 2017 said European explorers effectively destroyed all the things that people had found exotic and attractive about Tahitian culture. They
Yeah.
did. That's fucking worst. So,
I actually
yeah,
feel weird and guilty that I like Hawaii as much as I do, because
I know
I
we should
know that,
learn about that.
huh?
We should talk about that sometime. All the terrible things that happened in Hawaii. I don't know. I don't really know them.
So I don't know them that well either. It's just I can intuit that like it's an American state, which means it was settled, which means there were missionaries, which means like all
Hmm.
these people who obviously don't look like Europeans with like crosses on the back of their vehicles, like they lost chunks of who they are as humans
Hmm.
because of Christianity and missionaries and stuff like that. And like I do love Hawaii, but like it's also, I'm aware that it's kind of gross.
Yeah, totally. There was a thing where no, this is funny. When one of the times when The Rock was on Saturday Night Live, they were like at a luau and he was like making fun of people and he was like, "Oh, cool, you're on your honeymoon. That's great. Do you wear Crocs in restaurants in Nebraska?" It was like so funny. It's like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
So John Adams was allowed to stay. He died at on Pitcairn Island. He's buried there, so he's the only mutineer with a grave. Like he's buried there. The island is still a British overseas territory, because of course it is. It has a population of about 50 people, and a lot of them are like descendants of the mutineers. And there are a fair amount of people in Tahiti that are descendants of, you know, these colonizers and these people that came out there in 19 oh I don't know if I mentioned that when they got to Pitcairn Island at the beginning, they burned the bounty. So they burned the boat so they wouldn't, uh, have it as like evidence of what they had done. But in 1957, National Geographic explorer Louis Martin found what remained of the bounty off the island's east coast. So
That's
there's still
cool.
like parts of it that are under there.
That's super
Um,
cool.
yeah. And yeah, that's it. So I feel like the red flags are don't be colonizers and don't treat your people like shit so that they overthrow you.
Hold on, I gotta find this guy.
What are you looking for?
This fucking absolute dipshit loser fucking dweeb, John Allen Chow, who was
Oh, that
all
guy.
of 26 years old from Scottsboro,
What
Alabama. What an absolute dipshit.
do you mean?
So here's the thing, like I have no problem with people in their religious practices. I growing up and having friends talk about how they're going to go down and do a mission service in like
Yeah.
Central America, like fuck you. Like who are
Fuck
you
you,
to
dude.
take their fucking culture away from them? Like Well, because they don't fucking have stock portfolios. They're less than you. Like, what are you trying to teach them? Like,
Yeah.
God, it's so offensive. And like, what's funny is like, okay, not funny. It's actually kind of awful. It's like I I got on those weird rabbit holes on YouTube, and the most recent one that I went down has to do with the narco wars and the cartel wars in Mexico.
Hmm.
And I've like had this thought multiple times where I'm like, dude, these people are fucking descendants of Aztecs and Mayan warriors, and they're cutting each other's heads off over like $3 worth of like weed. And it's
Yeah.
just like, and I try to like do the math in my head of like, how do you tie that back to missionaries and Catholics going over there trying to convert them to Christian? Like, it's all there. I know it's there, and I need to think about it more.
Hmm.
But like, it is so fucked up that people do that and they think it's a good thing.
There's just like no, like this, there's no redeeming quality to this mission. Like they were going to Tahiti to like take advantage of the women, take advantage of the culture, to steal their food so that they could bring it to the West Indies to be able to really cheaply feed their slaves. Like
It's like all bad.
there's no,
It's all
yeah,
bad.
it's all bad. There's nothing redeeming about it. I do want to say that Anthony Hopkins does look kind of young in this. Oh, he's 47. He does look, I mean, he looks the youngest I've ever seen him in this poster for The Bounty. I was just
You
looking at
remember
that.
when he played the Wolf? No, wait, that was Jack Nicholson. Never mind. Jack Nicholson played the Wolf.
Jack Nicholson is doing terrible. He like lives alone and is really, really old. But Anthony Hopkins, his Instagram is like him playing piano. It's quite lovely.
God, what even the locals told this fucking moron
They said they wouldn't take him
they
there. They
wouldn't
said,
take
"We're not
him.
going to take you there."
They wouldn't take him. They like dropped him off. It was like, this is as close as I'm getting to this island. He was like, I can do it. It's like,
Why? What is? And I remember, I feel like his dad one time was like, "We shouldn't blame him." Blah blah blah.
we
You're
should
like,
100% blame him. He's a fucking
100% blame
moron.
him. He's
He's
an
a fucking
idiot.
idiot. And the people
Yeah.
who enabled him, all of his fucking youth pastors and church leaders,
Yes.
they think you can all fucking bathe in his blood because they're fucking responsible for it too. Piece of shit.
Yeah. That story's terrible, and I hope those people on the island are doing fine.
Yeah, no kidding.
Um, I think I read something else about them. I don't know if this is true. This is just a random, possibly untrue story corner. That during like tsunami time, when there was like a big tsunami in like that area of like India and Japan or something, people on that island were okay. They survived because they had the tribal knowledge literally to know that when the ocean gets pulled back like that, they need to run to the hills,
Yeah, of
you know?
course. Yeah.
Like without any science or anything, like, or whatever. I'm sure they have something. You know what I mean? Super cool. Don't go there.
So his dad, this guy's dad, blamed his kid's death on the missionary community.
Yeah, fair. 100%.
One of my really good friends, I hate fucking saying this, I wouldn't say her name, but like when we were growing up, we went to high school together, and she was like super, super Christian and was like always going on these missions. And I remember as a kid being like, oh, that's so cool. You get to travel and it's like fun. You get to help people. And now as an adult, I'm like, that was kind of fucked up. Like, that was
Yeah,
kind of
no,
fucked up.
I had someone also not say who it was, like, but they were like, I got to go to South America and help people. And I'm like, no, you didn't. That wasn't helping people. You're out of your mind. Like, that's absolutely not like, no. You
Yeah.
went there to like knock on doors and try to get them to be Mormon.
Ugh,
It's not the
so
same thing.
gross.
It's a different thing. Yeah. So, yeah.
Taylor, I think we shine later in the evening. I think
Yeah.
at 10 a.m., like I'm kind of barely half awake, and at 8 a.m., you're 100% not awake. And
I'm
I
a
think
morning
that
dove.
I think we shine, man. I think like later in the evening is maybe so.
Let's
Taylor
do it.
moved our time, but she didn't actually know. What Taylor didn't know when she moved our time was that I was desperately wishing that she would, because I
Oh,
landed at like 11 p.m. last night from Denver, got to my house at like midnight, and then also had done almost no research for this episode. So the fact that
oh
she
my
pushed it
God.
is was hugely beneficial for all of us.
Next week is going to be wild, but let's talk about it because I could maybe do it from the hotel,
Wait, where are you going?
LA.
Wait, why?
I have to go to, I'm working from LA the 24th to the 27th, so I have to go on Saturday 'cause I also have to work on Sunday, which is like a big project. And then, but I have two baseball games at the same time, Saturday morning, the end of noon.
I mean, there's a chance we could do it in person on Thursday.
Yeah, but I can't come until later because we have piano until 5:30. Being a parent is hard. We should end with that.
No, no, like have Juan's the driver. We have dinner. Well, fuck it. We'll order pizza at the casita, and then we can just have some bourbon and pizza and record.
All right.
We'll
Okay,
figure it
we'll
out.
talk about it. I
I'll
haven't
stop.
I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, great. Thank you for everyone who I just don't stop. I have to say thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
please.
everyone. And also, I figured out how to review on Spotify because my cousin Lindsay asked me how to do that, and I was like, I don't know. So I found out it's on the app only. You can't leave words, but you can do the 5 stars. 15 people already have, so thank you so much. Please continue to tell your friends. We have hopefully some marketing plans coming soon that we'll talk about next week, and we'll get out to more people. But everybody, thank you for your reviews. Find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, also on YouTube as well. And I got us a Twitter just for fun.
Awesome. Thank
Same
you,
thing.
Taylor.
Doomed to Fail Pod. We're on Twitter as well. Now we're on everything.
When we're famous, we will not forget you, the little people who helped get us here.
Exactly. We'll remember you, our first 1,000 followers.
Yay.
Because right now there's like 7 of you. But I do think, but we are going up, and I'm very excited and happy to do this. So great.
No, we're way Taylor, we're way past that. We have like over 1,200, 1,300 downloads.
No, I know, but like, doesn't mean. But the
Taylor,
last one is
you need
going
to
up
express
faster.
positivity.
I did. I just made something up, and then I felt bad about it, so I said something else. No, we have in the last 7 days we have 76 unique listeners, which is great. Hello,
So
76 of you. Thank you,
so
thank you.
thank you all. And yeah, we'll be joining you again next week, either from Palm Springs, remotely in LA, in Austin, or some other way. But I'm looking
Also,
forward to it.
shout out to Henry, our friend, who's
Who,
definitely listening because we
British
have
Henry?
one down. Yeah, we have one download in Portugal every week.
So that could actually be the other friend I mentioned who did the mission trips. Shit, that means that she might hear this.
Well, there's one person in Portugal listening to us, so we know
It
two
could
people
be.
there.
It could be. It's probably this friend. It's probably not Henry. Henry's not.
I don't know. I don't know anybody else in Portugal,
No,
but you do apparently.
Henry listens to like mind hack stuff. Like he tries to like improve himself as a human. Yeah, he's lame. I
Two
love you
people in
though.
Jacksonville, 4 people in Las Vegas, one person in Olympia, Washington.
No way. Seriously?
Yeah, one person in Houston, one person in Rockport, Texas.
That's
Uh,
the new
is that you?
GF's. That's the new
Oh,
GF's
one
mom.
person in Petoskey, Michigan. That's your new girlfriend's mom?
Yeah. She told her
Cute.
mom about my podcast.
That's sweet. 2 people in Grand Rapids. What up, Kelly? I know it's my friend from work. Anyway, very exciting. You should cut this all out. Bye.
It's like half this podcast I'm gonna have to cut out.
Cut it out. We've been here for days.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording. Thanks everyone.